At the start of your business journey, you are everything in your business. You are the CEO, you are the finance director, the salesperson, the marketing person. You're putting out the rubbish and everything else in between. And it can be a really, really lonely path, which is why I created this playlist on my channel so that I can bring together my go-to experts. My name is Lindsay Burden, and I'm an intuitive business coach who works with, hard to get your words out on a very hot day, works with ambitious women in business, helping them, guiding them, and motivating them to create wildly successful businesses and a time-rich lifestyle. But I'm not here to talk about myself today. I have the fabulous and beautiful Zita Alves, and I have been checking that pronunciation. I hope I did good.
You did.
Zita, we've known each other a little while, and we met through a networking group. And when I invite people in, I always ask them, what is it you want to call your conversation with me? And your title was 5 Ways to Have More Energy. And we couldn't have picked a better topic, really, for this very hot day. But I always ask for a few lines of personal introduction. And you wrote, as previously overweight, unfit, non-exerciser, you're passionate about helping women find the joy of healthy living and exercise. And I think that's just so powerful. And it's a really strong message to get across, that just because you didn't exercise doesn't mean to say that you can't.
Yeah, and also it doesn't have to be a negative experience, it doesn't have to be punishment. I think a lot of people see it as, you can find something you enjoy, and that's what I'm really passionate about, is showing women that there's different things for different people, and that exercise doesn't have to be in the gym. It's not for everybody to be in the gym, but you can still find something, and you still need to do it. We do need to do it. It's not like, oh, because I don't like the gym, I'm not going to exercise. That's not an option. We have to be moving, especially as we hit 40s, 50s, etc. So and everything that comes around it. I'm super passionate about the whole package. It's not just one thing, it's not just exercise, it's every single thing we do, which is why I wanted to talk about energy, because I don't think there's anyone who doesn't want more energy. And I called my business Zest Bootcamp for a reason, because I want people to have that zest for life, that energy, because I didn't have it. And I was young, I was in my 20s, and if I think back, I was in a really bad place compared to how I am now. I'm the oldest I've ever been, and I feel fantastic. And I know that it's purely through changing my lifestyle, through habits, and nothing complicated really. It's just having that knowledge and that desire to not ever feel like that again, because no one wants to feel like that, really. So there's always something for someone to do.
You've used a phrase there, it doesn't have to be complicated. And I just wonder, in this crazy world that we live in, that people feel that it has to be, going to the gym, and it's got to be 5 days a week. And there is so much pressure put on exercise and health from certain industries.
I think it's harder with Instagram and social media, particularly Instagram. It's so hard to really think about how most people live. They do not live those lives. We're not fitness models, which is what you're being shown, and that's not realistic. Most people have real lives that they have to deal with, and if all they can do is getting out for a walk consistently every day, then that's a huge achievement compared to what's being thrust at you of, like you say, all of that. And I'm passionate about getting people outdoors and doing simple things. So one of the things that I was going to talk about is, well, let's go back to the most simple thing I think everyone can do, is to drink more water. Because it's free, and I always would start with that. With personal training clients, it would be the number one thing I would start with, right? How much water you're having. No one ever really had enough, and it's free and anyone can do it. So yeah, I'm always carrying a bottle of water with me. I had the bottle, but I didn't have a glass. I had to go and grab a glass. So I've always got water with me. I will carry it with me, because you can't always get it. And obviously it's a hot day today, it's super important, and people start to think about, oh, I'm going to drink water, because it's not yet a habit for them. But yeah, that's one of the basic things that I think everyone could probably do easily. Doesn't take time. But yeah, getting out in nature is something I'm super passionate to get people to do, because you don't even have to live in the country. You know, there's parks, there's trees. You might not have a garden, but there'll be some gardens nearby. So if you can just get out into nature for a walk, for sunlight, for daylight, because that's the other thing. Many people are probably not aware that getting out our eyes exposed to that morning light will really help us sleep better later in the day. It helps set our circadian rhythm, and it can be really easy to just get into work and think I'll go for a walk maybe later. But if you can get it in the morning, if you just drink a cup of coffee outside and just get that daylight, put your head out the window, you're just going to tell your brain it's day, releases the right hormones, and it will help us sleep a lot better later on the day. And it also helps all of our processes in our body. So everything is a process, it's on a rhythm. So if we can work with our rhythm and not against it, and lifestyles are not set up sometimes to be working with our rhythm, if we can work with it better. So getting out for a walk in the morning is great, just getting outside into nature, getting that kind of grounding, you know, feet on the grass, especially at the moment. It's like, how often do we ever take our shoes off and just walk on the grass? It's really, really simple, and it can really help ground you, and yeah, connecting with nature, and like we used to as kids, probably a lot of us, go and play in the mud, etc. If you think about your gut bugs, it's too much sanitized everywhere, and we're losing those gut bacteria for that reason as well. So and that's another thing. I don't even really talk about that in this, but yeah, gut health is another thing. And the reason I'm passionate about this is I had psoriasis really badly for a good year. It literally covered me head to toe, apart from my face. I was really lucky. I was in my old office job before I changed careers. I was covered head to toe. If I'd known what I know now, I wouldn't have been covered head to toe for so long. But I didn't know, and my diet wasn't good, and it was too much stress, and I didn't know how to cope with stress or do any of the things I do now, really. So I come from a place of like really wanting to help people, because I know it's really pretty bad when you're in that position.
Something that's really struck me already, and you're using the words simple, you're using the words start, and you know, just starting with water, which is something that we can all do, and that getting outside in the mornings are things that we can do, and that having that, you know, taking your first coffee out there. I think we're so good at putting blocks in place to prevent us doing these things, but actually it's not complicated. It doesn't need to be complicated, does it?
But it's about putting ourselves first. You know, kids have got to get to school, etc., etc., or you've got emails to answer. It's the tendency to do those things first, but they're going to be there anyway, aren't they? So if you just set aside that 5 minutes, and telling people around you, I think it's really important. You know, let the people know, no, this is where mummy sits down 5 minutes, maybe does some breath work, has her coffee, sits outside, and she'll be in a better mood for the rest of the day, and she'll sleep better. Therefore there's a connection. She'll sleep better, so she'll be less grumpy later. And you know, there's always a reason to give ourselves the oxygen mask first, but we sometimes forget.
So funny, because I have a little seat outside and I go out there in the morning. Sometimes I take my coffee, sometimes I don't, and my daughter's bedroom is above it. So that this morning the window was open, so she knew I was there, and you know, the voice going, "Mom, just sitting for 5 minutes, I'll be with you." But you're absolutely right. And something else that was really coming to mind for me, I was saying to my husband today or yesterday, when we were on holiday, I slept so well. And every morning, because we had an apartment, every morning I made myself a coffee and I went and sat on the balcony, and I just sat, and that starting to make more sense. Not only was I more relaxed and all of those things, but that's what I did every morning, and I slept really well.
Simple, isn't it? It's really simple things.
Yeah.
And even in the winter when it's not glorious outside, you know, there is still daylight.
Yeah.
That's the thing we forget sometimes. So yeah, that's a definite to try and get out. If you can get for a walk, you know, if you've got a bit more time, it's getting that 20-minute walk. Because as women going through I'm going to talk forever, but let's keep it simple. As women going through perimenopause and menopause, our heart health is really important. That's where we're more vulnerable.
Okay.
We don't need to necessarily do the high intensity exercise. No, our joints can't necessarily take it. You know, we're in different positions. So, but what we can do is like steady aerobic exercise, which could be a brisk walk, and consistently, you know, for minimum 20 minutes, maybe half an hour to an hour. And that's going to really improve our heart health and a lot of our markers as well, really. So, whilst you know, I'm a fan of doing a lot of different kind of exercise. I really am a fan of walking, because I think it's accessible for people. It doesn't even have to be in nature. Bit of urban rambling, everyone can do that. So yeah, and if you've been traveling, you've been sat in the car a long time, you just think about, have you moved much? Maybe use your steps as a guide, and just get moving. I just want people to move more. And I know that if I've been in a car or traveling and things, you just really notice it when you don't do it. If you're used to moving and then you don't, you really notice it. But I think we've all become, as I did in my old office job, I would just sit there. I would drive a long way and I would sit there. The thought of going out for a walk at lunchtime didn't even cross my mind. But now I couldn't do that, because I know that that's how I feel better. I sleep better, etc. Really. Oh, it's hot, isn't it?
Getting hotter by the minute. So talking about, you know, having that more energy. So we talked about having water and going out in nature, and there are so many different ways you can do that. And what you're saying is, you know, if you can get out first thing in the morning, but the other thing, you're really advocating for walking. So it might be in your lunch hour, it might be taking a break and being more conscious of when you've been sitting for a long time and needing to get up and moving the body. You've already mentioned breath work a couple of times, and I want to explore that a bit more, because there might be people watching going, well, I breathe.
Yeah. And I used to, but actually I'm an asthmatic. I grew up as an asthmatic, but I didn't have an inhaler. That was one reason I didn't exercise. I wasn't allowed to have an inhaler, so I didn't exercise. I didn't know what it was like to move my body. So breathing is a big thing for me, and I kind of learned to breathe like this and just use my upper chest. I didn't understand what it was like to breathe properly. So a few years ago I discovered more focused breath work and focused stretching, and meditation, and it's just amazing, really. I can't believe that we're not taught it as children, and that from 2 points of view, to help from a health point of view, if we're breathing properly, we're getting more oxygen and we're using the right muscles. We're not going to have that tension up here, because we're going to be doing more diaphragmatic breathing and breathing down. And we're going to get that proper exchange of air that we need. But also from a calming down point of view, and lots of children with anxiety, even if they were just taught to breathe. So there's, you know, breath work is quite a big subject, but using our nose to breathe a bit more. So we are actually designed to breathe through our noses. Now, it's something I want to explore a little bit more in terms of my study, etc., and qualifications. But I know now that if I have any moment of stress, like the other day I was driving the van and someone hit my mirror, and in previous times I would have been agitated and I had to carry on the journey early in the morning and I had to be somewhere, and I wouldn't have thought about any way to just help calm my nervous system down. But I stopped, drove up a little bit, stopped, took a moment to breathe in through my nose, nasal breathing, and just sighed out any of the stress and worry, and just knew that I could bring myself back into a better place to carry on my journey that I had to do. And that was really simple. Again, that was really simple. That was free. It took me moments. So I know how important it is to be able to use the breath. We recently bought a caravan, and I never thought I'd do that. I've been towing it. And my husband commented on how calm I was going through some really narrow lanes. And I managed to reverse it onto the side as well. And he just said how calm I was. And I said, that's a reflection of the 2 years I've spent doing mostly daily meditation and breath work. So it can just be breath work. It doesn't have to be meditation. But I just try to spend 5, 10, 15 minutes every morning to do that. Because it's not about doing the meditation and the breath work. It's about how it translates into your life. And that's a prime example, actually, of how I noticed that I can better deal with situations. And as women going through perimenopause, menopause, that is so important, to just be able to calm down the nervous system. So breathing also rebalances our nervous system. We're in this kind of constant stress, fight or flight, releasing all those cortisol and chemicals. We want to bring ourselves into our parasympathetic. So I've run a stretch class online, and they're very much about the breathing. So we focus on the breath, we time it, we use the breath to get deeper into stretches. And by the end of the session, everyone is just so much calmer, and they finished work, they've been busy. And 2 things actually with that: a lot of them have been at their computer, so by the end they feel much more open and just more normal and not tight like we are often. So So using breathing to help you rebalance your nervous system, and therefore you're not exhausted. You are the rest and digest, or the repair part of our nervous system, is something we don't do enough of, and we want to just get that balance a bit better. So therefore that will translate to better sleep. So if you're breathing better, generally you will sleep better. I mean, we could go on to breathing through your nose to sleep. We should do nasal breathing for sleeping. I'm not there quite yet, sticking up my mouth and doing all that.
Oh my goodness.
but yeah, that's like another layer, really. So being realistic, most people can spend a few moments, even if you have to go, if you're having a really stressful time with the kids or something, you just go into the toilet if you can, and just sit there and do some nasal breathing. I really like alternate. Do you know alternate nostril breath?
One and then the other one.
That's really, really simple. And it is literally just helping connect each side of your brain as well. There's just so many simple things out there, and there's lots of things available for free that you can find on the internet. So if you've never spent a few moments doing breathing, anyone watching this, I would just say, just have a little go. You might be surprised at how it can really, really, really improve how you feel.
You talk about nasal breathing, and I'm really fascinated because I breathe more through my nose than my mouth.
Yeah.
And I've been doing I meditate every morning, but I've been doing some guided meditation, and they often talk about taking the breath. And I've learned that don't panic if I'm not breathing at the same voice that the person's talking. It's okay, it'll all catch up. And stopping doing that, breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth. I really struggled for a while. I was like, but I just breathe through my nose. But actually, it's slowing the breath again. It's bringing everything down. It's just, working on that nervous system. So I find that quite fascinating. And we're talking about helping people breathe through their nose.
Yeah. And the most important thing, because you can breathe out through your mouth or your nose. That's different. But if we get people to start breathing in through their nose, that will be quite a huge thing, because most of us don't, especially at night. Many people won't have even thought about it, but as you drop off to sleep, it's very likely you're breathing through your mouth. But when we breathe through our nose, it creates more nitric oxide, which helps open our blood vessels. So that's good to lower your blood pressure. And it's so simple. Why have we got high blood pressure? It could be because we're not actually breathing through our nose, which we're designed to do. So a lot of the time in like the stretch classes, we will focus on like you were saying, a big mouth exhale, because we're trying to use the diaphragm, that real visceral, and you can feel like you're getting rid of the stress. You're inhaling all that calm and you get rid of the stress. So it's so simple, but it doesn't mean that we're doing it because we don't know. No one told us how important it is, and no one showed us how to do it. So it's not surprising we don't do it often. But that would be definitely another thing I think people could do easily.
The other thing you wrote down on here was movement, and you have alluded to that already. We just need to get it moving a little more, don't we?
Yeah. And if you're sat at a desk, I think that's the other thing, is that if you're engrossed in work, set yourself a little timer for every hour, because it could be that an hour goes past, you don't even move. Just get up, just open out your body a little bit, just do a few twists, stretch, shake your hips, anything just to get you moving. So that's as important as people sometimes think, sitting down all day, but then I go to the gym for an hour. Actually, it's the consistent little bits of movement through the day is far better for you. This is another reason I like people to drink water, because you will have to go to the toilet at some point. So that makes you move. It's obvious.
It's genius.
But yeah, just any kind of movement. And whilst strength training is good as women, everyone's losing muscle. But as we get older, we want to be really, really mindful of not losing that muscle, the balance element, things that as we age. When I talk about aging, I think sometimes people think, but I'm not 70, 80, but you probably will be one day. So let's do the work now to make sure you're fighting fit and you're really in that. I've got an 80-year-old lady who comes to boot camp. She is amazing, and she inspires all of us to be the best we can be. So it's the movement you do now that will make the difference when you're older. So it's never too late to start, it's never too early to start at all. Even if all you did was put on a dance track and go and dance when you finish your work, if you're working at home, go and dance and then get with the rest of the evening. Just do something.
It feels a little and I'm no expert, so I'm only looking in from a layman's terms, but it just feels that there are so many simple little things that we can do, and possibly habit stacking them. So if you got to get water, that might be a great opportunity just to step outside, even if it was to walk around the garden. So adding these things together. But I mean, you've really just talked about drinking more water. We can all do that. Nobody has an excuse not to do that, really. Getting outside, and not just getting outside, but being in nature. And I guess what we hadn't said really was participating in it, just taking that moment to stand and hear and see and feel the nature around you. And you talked about taking your shoes off. The importance of breathing. And you've gone on to say, just get out and just get moving. And it just feels like all of those things are possible. The other thing I really loved, it's never too late to start. It's never too early to start. And I guess all of these things will help us as we age, because we cannot stop that aging process. And you've also talked about, perimenopause and menopause, that there are, many women who suffer horrendously. And these small things that they could do would make a difference.
Yeah, absolutely.
Zita, if somebody's watching and gone, right, I need to do something, but goes into that, but I haven't got time, and I know we've talked about simple things, but I don't want it to sound like we're just telling you to go away, drink some water, get off your chair. Because actually life's not like that, and that there are some other things going on. If there was one thing you could encourage somebody to do beyond what we've talked about, that would really give them the nudge they needed, is there something that comes to mind?
Flipping it really is that if you've never spent time around people who are ill, I used to work with stroke survivors. If you've never spent time in hospital seeing people in not a great way, you actually almost need to do that to have a wake-up call. I feel some people need to, and this is straight talking really, because tough love's needed, because I think people just think it's never going to happen to them, but you can do so much. And I know, and I see people and I just think, oh, there's so much that's preventable. So don't ever think it won't happen to you, because it could. So if you can just do some things now. I think also underlying, I think let's mention nutrition, because underpinning it all, I mean, sleep is super important. Sleep is really a key foundation. However, what we eat is just the vital missing link for a lot of people. So my big thing is eat close to nature, eat what our grandparents ate, eat what you can see in nature. So what you can get off a tree, what you can fish for, what you can go and farm for. I do eat meat, I'm not plant-based, but I eat a lot of plants. What you could gather, what you can recognize as real food. If you focus on eating those foods, it's not all rabbit food at all. You can eat really super delicious and nutritious food, and that will make a huge difference. And I am passionate about food. I mean, being half Portuguese, food is a big deal. And I know how you can heal yourself with food, and that was saying about gut health, etc. So yeah, I think those two things I would say: a bit of tough love, be real, because as you well know, life hits you hard sometimes, and you might be surprised. So no one's going to do it for you. No one's coming to save you. You have to take responsibility and do it. But find someone who can help you. Find a friend to go for a walk with. Put a podcast on if you think, oh, I want to listen to podcasts, but I never get time. We'll make those two, like you said, habit stack. Absolutely, get those two things together. I mean, I try and stretch. If I'm going to watch TV, I'll get the foam roller and kind of roll around or do a few stretches on the floor and try and make that a kind of habit stack thing. So there's always something. Even if it's just one tiny thing.
And you gave us a little bit more tough love there as well. I don't know if you realize, but take responsibility. And that's key, isn't it? We are responsible as individuals for our own health and well-being. And where we can, because we recognize that there are lots of caveats and lots of different places, but where you can, take responsibility for your health and well-being, and at the very least start with water, because that's the one thing I did. I changed because I had a very heavy coffee habit.
Mm, mm.
And I just started to swap out one coffee
Yeah.
for water, and it's still easier for me to drink more water when it's very hot. But
I have a coffee and a water.
yeah, I did that for a while as well. I sort of mix and match.
Yeah.
And yesterday hardly drank any coffee at all for obvious reasons. And
Yeah.
this isn't coffee either, it is water. It's been, Zita, for me, is just that simple. Start somewhere, make it as easy as possible for yourself, because we all recognize that it's a very busy world, but take responsibility if you can for your own health and well-being. And you've shared all of that in such an energetic and easy way. And at no point did I feel that you were lecturing us to do more, to do better. It's about doing what you can and starting where you're from, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. One tiny thing could just make a huge difference. So.
And all of the things that you were talking about, so water, getting outside, breathing properly, movement, sleep, all of those things will help business owners be more productive, will enable them to do the things they need to do in their business. So, and that's, why I love bringing health professionals into the channel and interviewing you, because always, if you are looking after yourself, you are way better able to look after your business and your loved ones. And isn't that the truth?
Yeah, absolutely.
And because we've mentioned business, and I do want to ask you this, I always ask my guests, if they had to start their business again, would they do something differently? And your response was not spread yourself too thinly or expand too much or too fast, which I thought was really interesting, that second part. So when you look back now, do you think that you try to go too fast?
It was mainly for boot camps that I had different venues, but I realized, and I had some different teachers as well. So I realized that what I loved to do was the teaching part of it, and that I didn't want to end up managing other people in that respect, because I wanted to be with the clients. That's my passion. And also I just realized that different places need different marketing. There's a different message, there's a different feel. So that's kind of where I went bigger, and then I came back to just being Bath, really, and changed a few things, but it just feels more, it feels better for me. It's more, for me, it was more what I was about, really. Rather than having lots of kind of low-level relationships, I suppose that you could say it's about having deep relationships with fewer people.
No.
And we've clients that have stayed for 10 years. So that's what I really want to do.
Just remind me, Zita, and for everyone that's listening and watching, so you've mentioned boot camps and online stretch. So what does the business look like now? We are going to let people know how they can find you, and I will share all those links. But what does the business look like now?
So now it's outdoor group exercise classes in Bath in the mornings, and online in the evenings. So that means that there are people that can't make it to Bath that can not get the nature, but they can get the movement in.
Yep.
So we do online classes in the evenings, and online stretch classes and breath work. I also run retreats. I haven't got any books at the moment, but I do run retreats. They sometimes day retreats locally, or they might be 3-4 night retreats in the UK or abroad. I haven't been abroad since COVID, and that's where I put everything together. All of the things go in there, and I love running retreats, and I definitely want to be doing more of those. I one-to-one, I don't work physically with people, but I work one-to-one online in terms of much more of nutrition and health rather than fitness. So I don't do my personal training anymore. I did that for 20 odd years and was in the gym and was mobile, seeing people in their houses. But then I changed it after COVID. I kind of reevaluated what was important to me. So now I do one-to-one, but it's a bit more holistic, health-based, a bit more nutrition, and just whatever the client needs. I work predominantly with women still, so women over 40. And I'm just about to launch a 21-day sugar-free challenge. So things like that. I do little challenges and bits and pieces. And I am also training to be what's called a MenoFit instructor. So that's where we're really niching down a little bit more into menopause. So that encompasses movement, sleep, nutrition, everything about it really. So that's quite exciting to kind of have that little bit of a more bespoke branded avenue to help women. So yes, there's a few bits and pieces going on, but I can often be seen in the park in Bath, covered in grass or mud or something.
Well, I absolutely love seeing you on social media because you share those photographs of you being out in nature, both in the business and personally. So I want everyone else to have a little bit of you because and you really do bring joy, particularly to my Instagram feed. So if somebody wants to find you, follow you, wants to find out more information, you know, website address, where else can they go and find you?
So on Instagram, I'm Fitness Zita, and that's got a bit of everything. And also, if you go to my bio on Instagram, there's links to all the different bits and pieces there. So that's a great place to start. There for Zest Bootcamp, there's a zestbootcamp.co.uk website. So that's whether it's outdoors or online, there's that. And we run trial weeks, so people can come along for a trial week and see how they like it. And then my other main website is zitaalves.com. So that's where other bits are, like retreats or a bit more. You can download a free stretch routine on that. So if you haven't done any breath work, there you go, it just reminded me, if you haven't done any breath work, anyone watching, and you want to just do a little bit of stretching, there's a 10-minute little download there, simple stretches with me and some breathing, and that's a really good place to start actually. So that's on the zitaalves.com website. I'm on Facebook, I'm on Twitter, I'm everywhere.
I will try and pick up all of the possible links that you've mentioned and make sure that I put them in the description below, because I want people to have access to you, because I really do. You really, I'm not exaggerating, you bring absolute joy to me when I see you show up. It's incredible. And as you were talking then and talking about the different elements of the business, I felt like there was another interview coming, because there was different elements of the business which you've branded differently. And I think that's a really fascinating topic for people to hear about. So I have a feeling I need to invite you back and we need to have another conversation with a more business focus. But you have been absolutely incredible to talk to, as I knew you would be, and you've kept it real, you've kept it simple, and you've given us a bit of tough love, which I think is also important. But I highly encourage everyone to go and find Zita, start following her, get engaged with her. And I will make sure that those links are available for everybody to find below this video. Zita, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity.
Fabulous.